take your places. We apologize for running a little late today. We went a little late on our work session this afternoon, so thanks for bearing with us. I believe we have enough to get started tonight. All right, well, welcome everyone to the City Council meeting tonight. We'd like to start with a Pledge of Allegiance, if you'd rise. Thank you very much. We would like to welcome each of you to our City Council meeting this evening. We appreciate that you've taken time out of your day to attend our meeting, to participate, and to see your local government at work. To start the meeting, we have laid out some guidelines for decorum and civility to make sure people feel comfortable and safe to participate. Please be respectful during other people's comments. Avoid cheering or jeering because it could cause someone to feel intimidated. Please also help take care of this historic meeting room by not standing on furniture or leaning against decorative pieces. If you have assigned proper other piece of equipment, such as video equipment or other things, please make sure that it does not cause disruption or block other people's views, and signs wider than your chair will be displayed in the hall. Also, items like sticks and dowels are not allowed. Please do not approach the dais. If you have something to pass out to the council, a staff member can assist you. Any staff members present right now? All right, Jennifer Bruno is present. As others come in the room, we'll identify them as well. We recognize that 2 minutes of comment time may not be long enough to get all your thoughts outlined tonight. Please visit our website or refer to the contact information sheets by the speaker cards for information about other ways to share your comments with the council via email, phone, or mail. All right, the council will first tonight consider a joint resolution with the mayor to recognize December 1st as World AIDS Day in Salt Lake City. I'd like to turn the time over to Councilmember Penfold, who will read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to start by saying in my 8 years serving on the council, one of my great honors is to join with the mayor and my colleagues in recognizing an annual date that's very important to me as the executive director of the Utah AIDS Foundation. The city has been stellar in its support of acknowledging the importance of this particular day every year, and has actually done a lot of work throughout the year to support people living with HIV and AIDS, including some rather significant funding that's managed by the city. So I would like to start by just first sharing my appreciation to the administration and to my colleagues for that long-term and ongoing support. This is a joint resolution recognizing World AIDS Day in Salt Lake City. Whereas, according to estimates from the Joint United Nations Program on HIV/AIDS, there are now more than 36.7 million people throughout the world living with HIV. Of these, 1.8 million are children. 2.1 million new infections occurred among adults and children in 2016 alone. And whereas HIV infections are continuing to increase in Utah, with 25 to 34-year-old Utahns being most impacted in 2016, and whereas up to 80% of people living with HIV in Utah reside along the Wasatch Front, and whereas 21% of newly identified HIV infections in Utah had progressed to AIDS at the time of their diagnosis, meaning they delayed testing for HIV. And whereas the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has found that HIV-related stigma has a significant negative impact on people living with HIV, increases new infections, and delays people seeking testing for HIV. And whereas the elimination of stigma in Utah will lead to better physical and mental health outcomes for people living with HIV, increased HIV disclosure, and decreased HIV infections. And whereas World AIDS Day was established in 1988 and is observed every year on December 1st to provide an opportunity for individuals and communities to take action and help educate for HIV/AIDS prevention, treatment, and care. And whereas Salt Lake City has joined other cities around the world in an effort to increase awareness, provide education about HIV/AIDS, and demonstrate compassion for those affected by HIV. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Salt Lake City Council and Mayor of Salt Lake City hereby recognize December 1st, 2017 as World AIDS Day in Salt Lake City and encourage all residents to unite together in the fight against HIV/AIDS, reduce the stigma of HIV/AIDS, and support those who are living with or have been affected by HIV/AIDS. Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Penfold and a second by Councilmember Luke. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you very much, Councilmember Penfold.
May I ask a quick question?
We'll get to comments in a second. Thank you. We will now hold the public hearing portion of our meeting. We have several opportunities for public comment tonight, and we'll call people based on the comment cards that have been turned in. The first ones are blue. Please note that if you have already spoken on a public hearing on a specific topic, you may not speak again during the hearing, even a continued hearing, but you may speak during the general comment period at the end. I will call people two at a time. The first person, please come forward to the microphone, and the second person, please be ready to follow. Comment time is limited to 2 minutes per person, and you cannot combine time with another speaker. As a reminder, please help keep a civil and respectful meeting. Be respectful during other people's comments, no loud noises or other disruptions. Do not block other people's views with signs or other items, and allow council staff to help pass out any handouts you may have. The first comment card, actually the first public hearing tonight is on the text amendment to the FBUN2 zoning district. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 21A .27, the Salt Lake City Code pertaining to land use regulations in the form-based urban neighborhood FBUN2 zoning district. And the comment cards I have tonight are first Cindy Cromer, followed by George Chapman.
My name is Cindy Cromer. A year and a half ago, Judy Short preceded me at this podium to comment on the form-based codes for Sugar House. And then I said, I want what she's having. Because the FBUN2 in my neighborhood has no setbacks or stepbacks. You responded immediately with legislative action. Tonight, I thank you again for your speed in addressing the problem. Unfortunately, it's taken a year and a half to get the issue in front of you for an amendment. The FBUN2 is the only form-based code the City Council has adopted without setbacks and stepbacks. The compatibility of the new construction is dependent on proximity to FBUN1. Without a rezoning to FBUN1, the city would be compelled to approve a 50-foot wall right next to a single-family residence. I want to make two different types of comments tonight, one set dealing with how we got here, and the other dealing with the proposed changes since the last hearing. First, how we got to this point. Well, I list three. Salt Lake City has wonderful diversity in its neighborhoods. Please make sure that you know how a proposal will affect every neighborhood before you adopt it citywide. Please do not tie compatibility to adjacent zones which are not in place at the time of adoption. Secondly, regarding the proposed changes since your last hearing, the plan development process is available to developers who have sufficient acreage. If the property is small, it is very possible that a development which doesn't fit will exploit the surrounding properties without adding amenities to the project or to the surrounding neighborhood. Secondly, the Landmarks Commission can approve relief to requirements regarding setbacks and height. A project within an historic district has access to flexibility that other developers can access through a plan development without going to the Planning Commission and regardless of acreage. In short, I interpret the issues that the staff has examined since the last hearing as whining. I'm asking for an amendment to the ordinance consistent with the city's other form-based codes and the Planning Commission's unanimous recommendation. And those of you who followed this closely know that there were 2 unanimous recommendations from the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have George Chapman. He's the last card I have. Does anybody else like to speak on this? Please raise your hand and the council staff can help you out.
Okay. A form-based code is supposed to make it easier for developers to build. It's removing impediments to building residences, mainly. This form-based code proposal, it does not do that. It looks like it's actually micromanaging. You're actually telling builders they have to change the color of their driveway if it crosses a sidewalk. Really? That's micromanaging it, and then it doesn't make sense. You also are talking about if off-street parking is provided. And every project, I thought, in Salt Lake City should have off-street parking. I know you're having a problem with off-street parking, but it's important. So there shouldn't be no ifs, ands, or buts in off-street parking. One other thing is the funding, or excuse me, the sidewalks. There's still an issue with sidewalks. You're allowing buildings to go up right next to sidewalks, and sidewalks should be a lot wider. When a snow plow goes by 4th South, every sidewalk there is going to be covered with snow completely. And you're not covering that at all. Form-based zones should cover everything: sidewalks, driveways, and buildings.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this? All right, seeing none, do I see a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we close this public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
Is there a second? We have a motion by Councilmember Penfold, a second by Councilmember Luke. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. Our second public hearing tonight is an ordinance related to Utah Jazz Practice Facility sign overlay. This is an ordinance that would amend a section of the Salt Lake City zoning ordinance to include the Utah Jazz Practice Facility located at 1432 South, 500 West, into the localized alternative sign overlay district on the block that currently houses the Vivint Arena. And I don't have any comment cards. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this topic? Okay. Well, seeing none, do we see a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move the council continue the public hearing, excuse me, to a future council meeting.
Second. We have a motion by Councilmember Rogers, a second by Councilmember Luke. Any discussion?
I don't see the point in that when we don't have anyone to speak to it tonight. We've had public hearing.
You want to know my reasoning behind it?
Yeah, it seems like a political
You know, the
maneuver.
plan changed completely at the last meeting. It was completely different than what they originally had. We saw a new version of it, and secondly, we had the holidays, and I just feel like we need one more meeting. This is too big of a deal for us just to say, hey, let's just hurry up and vote on it. I think we need to continue that public hearing and get more input from it.
So potentially bring it back to a work session.
No, well, it depends. I mean, if something changes, you know, that we hear from constituents. But when I've reached out to constituents, I didn't even hear about this. You know, that's something I think that is more important for us to have some sort of context in.
I am ready to vote on this tonight, and I will be voting against your motion because this proposal is absolutely contrary to Salt Lake City's, one of the backbone tenets of Salt Lake City, which is that we don't want expansion of electronic billboards. And I understand that there's some difficulties with the existing paths for them to achieve a new sign, and 30 feet is insufficient when you're next to a freeway. And we asked the planning department, I believe, to come back if they had ideas about other pathways to create a dialogue to achieve some of their desires around a new sign, whether or not it's an electronic billboard. But I'm ready to vote on this tonight, and I would be a nay. So I just want to say that.
I'm not in any place to vote on it yet. That's why I want to continue it as well.
Is there any other discussion on this topic, the motion to continue? I believe, if nothing else, and let's roll call this vote if we could, or, no? Let's roll call the vote. We'll start with Councilman Rogers.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a no.
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 Yes.
No.
So we have, I believe, 4 noes and 3 yeses. Is that accurate?
Mr. Chair, I have a new motion.
If the motion fails, is there another motion?
I move the council close the public hearing, and we can defer action to a future council meeting and discuss this more amongst ourselves.
We have another motion, a second of that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Mendenhall, a second by Councilmember Penfold. Any discussion on this? We'll roll call this one as well, starting with Councilmember Rogers.
No.
No, I'm a no.
Yes.
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 The motion passes 4-3, I believe. Our next public hearing tonight is number B3, related to an ordinance in 416 East, 500 South rezone and master plan amendment. It is an ordinance that would rezone property located at 416 East, 500 South from residential office, RO, to residential mixed use, RMU. And I have one card. Mr. Steve Alder, please come forward if you would. He's the only card I have, so if you'd like to speak on this, please raise your hand and staff will help you. Go right ahead.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here before the council. It's been a few years since I've done this, and I'm always amazed at the dedication and the thoroughness of your work and the opportunity for public input. I've usually been the person who's asked questions or opposed a certain proposal. In this particular case, I'm working with I'm one of the owners of the property. We're working, and we believe that this amendment will be consistent with the goals of the council for this area. Appreciate the questions during the work session. I wasn't able to attend, but I understand it was supported generally by the staff now. So I'm just here to answer any questions you have any and to thank you for your work and for your support. And good to see you all. I really kind of feel guilty that I don't get here more often to see the good work you do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Who would like to speak to this issue?
Mr. Chair, I move the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
We have a motion by Councilmember Rogers, a second by Councilmember Luke. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. We are in the public hearing number B4 related to the northwest quadrant rezonings. This is an ordinance that would rezone properties within the northwest quadrant area to be consistent with the northwest quadrant master plan. I don't currently have any comment cards. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? We have one here. Oh, excellent. We do have a comment card. Come on forward. Mr. Brian Stevenson, is that accurate? All right. The floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Brian Stevenson. I appreciate the opportunity to come tonight. I come to speak my voice of approval and encouragement for the potential rezoning of this Northwest Quadrant area from the current agricultural use to the light manufacturing M1 zoning. I am a landowner in the area and feel like it's time, and this is the place for this to happen, with the prison acting as a catalyst for the area as far as new investment and growth and innovation in the area. I feel like it's a good idea to piggyback off of that and make this area of the city what it could and can be. So I want to voice my approval and my quiet encouragement that we continue to move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to this item? Seeing none? Oh,
Mr. Chair?
wait, we do have one more, I believe. Make sure you get a comment card after you're done.
Comrades, this what that gentleman said, if it's true, this is kind of troubling, you know. Where do groceries come from? They don't come from the grocery store. Agricultural, that would mean food to eat, correct? That's just my 2 cents. I think you need to, like, maybe half industrial and half agriculture, because a lot of people think groceries come from the grocery store, but there's farmers out there slaughtering their herd or chicken or whatever and growing the peas and the corn and all that stuff. Anyway.
Thank you very much. Anyone else who wishes to speak to this item?
Mr. Chair, I move that we close this public hearing and defer action to a future meeting.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Penfold, a second by Councilmember Rogers. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. We are on to our last public hearing tonight, which is a budget amendment number 1 for fiscal year 2017-2018, an ordinance amending the final budget of Salt Lake City, including the employment staffing document for fiscal year 2017-18. I have one comment card, Mr. George Chapman.
Finally, after years and years of fighting, we're going to hire 50 new cops, and you only get one comment on it. I don't believe it. I wish it had been more publicized. You're doing an amazing job on this budget amendment. If you actually do the 50 cops, this is a big deal for this city. The biggest deterrent, the best deterrent to crime is more visible cops. We've all discussed this between us for the last few years. So if you can pull this off, it's amazing. You also discussed in the work session getting the federal government, the state government to sell surplus property. I want to remind you that you, the city, also has surplus property that should be sold to be used, because right now it's vacant, it has been vacant for almost 10 years. So if you're looking for funding for police officers, that's where you can get it. Thank you again. This is a really, really big deal. I'm just sorry that more people didn't know about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We actually have another comment card, Mr. David Garbett.
Council members, David Garbett with the Pioneer Park Coalition. I didn't want to impose too much in your working session, but I wanted to make sure that you know the Pioneer Park Coalition is committed to $300,000 for the park as part of this amendment request. We're very excited about the city's plans for the park this winter. We're also very excited about having a conversation about making Pioneer Park a jewel of the downtown area that it can be. So really appreciate your questions and your support for that. And also, we are excited about the potential for more law enforcement officers here in the city. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we close this public hearing, defer action to a future meeting.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Penfold, a second by Councilmember Kitchen. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. We are now on to Section C, potential action items. For the record, item C1, a resolution for mosquito abatement district adjustments, is being pulled from this agenda and will be scheduled at a later council meeting date for council action. We apologize if anyone's here for that item. Our first potential action item business is item C2, a resolution regarding Housing Trust Fund loan request for Garden Lofts, 154 West, 600 South. This is a resolution authorizing a $1 million loan from Salt Lake City's Housing Trust Fund to Garden Lofts Holding LP to facilitate the development of a 272-unit affordable housing project at 154 West, 600 South.
Mr. Chair, I move the council adopt a resolution authorizing a loan for $1 million from the Salt Lake City Housing Trust Fund to Garden Lofts Holding LP for an affordable housing development located, as you said, at 154 West, 600 South.
Second.
Oh.
I know everybody. I saw all you.
We have a motion by Councilmember Mendenhall, a second by Councilmember Kitchen, I believe, in this one. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that passes. Now we are on to Section D. Are there any questions of the mayor from the city council? I believe we have Patrick Leary, the chief of staff, as well as David Litvak, deputy chief of staff, with us tonight. Thank you for being here, both of you. Any questions from the council? Okay. Thank you very much for being here again. We are now at agenda item D2. We'll be taking general comments tonight, and we'll call people based on the comment cards that have been turned in. These are yellow. If you'd like to speak tonight, make sure you have a yellow card that you've filled out. Just like with public hearings, I will call people two at a time. The first person, please come forward to the microphone, and the second person, please be ready to follow. Comment time is 2 minutes per person, and you cannot combine time with another speaker. As a reminder, please help create a civil and respectful meeting by being respectful during other people's comments. No loud noises or other disruptions. Do not block other people's views with signs or items, and please let council staff help pass out any handouts you may have. We have first up Douglas Cotant, followed by James Berenson, I believe.
Hello again, Lisa. Well, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Douglas Cotant. I live over at the Newland Apartments on 400 South and 7th East. And our new elevator is being put in and supposed to be done by December 31st. And I'm getting a little irritated about walking up and down those stairs. I have been trying to ask the manager to put a railing on the wall as you come out the door of the second floor. I have been asking him to put a railing on there, and he wouldn't do it, or he won't do it. So this evening I felt that I had to call Channel 2 News, and I talked to the newscast, and I think they'll be doing something about it. And also, I would like to say that I will be a year older on this Sunday, December 3rd. And I also want to say that I enjoy coming to city council meetings, and I enjoy listening to them. Thank you.
Mr. Cotant, happy birthday in advance.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. James Berenson, your time.
Greetings, comrades. Thank you for letting me address the Politburo. First thing I would like to talk on is the mayor was crying about being $1 million short. $237 million wasn't enough. She needed $238 million. And yet, she decides to spend money to hire a driver during this shortfall. She decides to add an additional bodyguard, $168,000 taxpayer funded to her organization. I just don't understand this. Was that extra $1 million going to prop her up on some kind of pedestal? I don't know. These things don't add up. You're short money, but then she goes out and spends money. But of course, it's not her money, is it? It's working men and women of this city. The next thing I'd like to say is the mayor in her grandstanding decided to hand these coats out. And as the council can see, these coats have a label on them. The Jewish religion or sector, or whatever you like to call it, in 1930s Germany also was labeled. That didn't go over too well. So, you know, I don't appreciate being labeled a mental defect just because my thoughts differ from Her Highness's, the chairman of the Politburo. The other thing I'd like to bring up is, look at this shoddy craftsmanship. One time it's washed and it's already falling apart. You know, somebody got yokeled on this deal, and you guys can have it back. I'd rather freeze to death than walk around as a mental defect. You know, that's what America's for, land of the free and home of the brave, but obviously your progressive politics are trying to suppress that. I will not go down this road with you guys. You try and be nice, but I got to wear a badge of mental instability. That just doesn't make any sense, and then the mayor's over there willy-nilly spending money. How come you don't do something about that, city lawyer? I'd like you to investigate this, that shoddy craftsmanship. Who made the most money off that?
Time?
Oh, and if there wasn't a two-tier justice system,
Time.
maybe we would find out who's
Thank-
benefiting from these illegal things.
Thank you. We have another card, Mr. John Armstrong. Welcome.
Hi, I just want to take 2 minutes. I understand that I'm a little late to the party concerning the ADU. I know you haven't voted on it yet, but it's in kind of a heated discussion right now. I met with my council member earlier this year and was disheartened when it kind of got curbed due to the state legislature, but excited that it's back kind of on the agenda and it's in discussion. My mother immigrated to the United States and has lived 50 years in Poplar Grove, raised 5 children as a single parent. She's in a position now where she can't really afford to live in her home, but can't really afford to move out of her home. And the ADU would be an incredible solution where she would be able to not only live or stay on her property, she'd be able to rent out her home that's larger, too large for her, and it would be the best of both worlds. She'd have a residence she could afford and be able to have the income to subsidize that. So I'm here to maybe just encourage you to find a resolution. I understand that all of you represent constituents who have very valid points and very valid concerns. Please don't vote no just because it's hard. I encourage you to find resolution and to all come with some sort of version that you can all feel comfortable passing. So I'm a face to what this could really be. It could be a real benefit to my family, and I know that there are many others just like us in Salt Lake City who want to continue to live here, but obviously as prices rise, it's hard to do so. So please find a resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we can update you on our work session as well if you're interested later. Anyone else who'd like to speak during a general comment period today? Okay. Seeing none, we have no new business or unfinished business items tonight, so I will look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I have a question in regards to the consent agenda.
Yes.
Item number G6, I don't ever remember interviewing Dave Robinson for the Board of Appeals and Examiners. Is that correct?
There are two, there are two listings that need to be removed tonight.
G6 and G7, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So then, I move that we approve the consent agenda with taking off items G6 and G7.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda, removing 2 items by Councilmember Rogers, a second by Councilmember Luke. Any discussion? Any discussion?
Nope.
No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. This concludes our formal council meeting tonight. Thank you for your attendance at tonight's council meeting, and the meeting will stand adjourned.